This is, without a doubt, the dumbest thing you've ever done, Emma, my best friend Sophia declared, watching me deliberately mess up another calculus problem. And I'm including the time you tried to dye your hair purple using grape Kool-Aid. I ignored her, carefully writing down that the derivative of sin x was tan x. Chen, the target of my admittedly ridiculous plan, was sitting 2 rows ahead, helping another student with derivatives. His black-rimmed glasses kept sliding down his nose as he leaned over to explain the problem, and something about that simple gesture made my heart do complicated calculations of its own. You do realize, Sophia continued, that you're literally a math Olympics gold medalist. The girl who solved that impossible problem in freshman year that even the teachers couldn't figure out. SHH. I hissed, quickly checking to see if anyone had overheard. That's exactly why this is perfect. No one would ever suspect I'm faking. The thing is, I'd had a crush on Chen since the first day of junior year, when he transferred to Roosevelt High, and immediately became Evrion's favorite peer tutor. He was kind, patient, and had a way of making even the most complex mathematical concepts seem accessible. Plus, he had this adorable habit of pushing up his glasses when he was really focused on a problem. My original plan had been to impress him with my mathematical prowess. But after 3 months of watching him exclusively interact with students he was tutoring, I realized I needed a different approach. He only really talks to people he's helping, I explained to Sophia for the 100th time. Therefore, if I want his attention, you need his help, she finished, rolling her eyes. Yes, I understand the logic. I just think it's insane. Why can't you just ask him out like a normal person? Because that's not how love stories work in high school, Soph. Haven't you seen any teen movies? This isn't a movie, and you're literally in the running for a full scholarship to MIT. I waved her concerns away, watching as Alex finished helping his current student. Now was my chance. Excuse me, I called out, making my voice small and uncertain. Could you maybe help me with this problem? I'm really lost. Alex looked up, pushing those glasses up his nose. My heart did a little somersault, and smiled. Of course. Let me take a look. He moved to the empty seat next to me as Sophia made exaggerated gagging motions behind his back. So, he said, looking at my deliberately messy work, what seems to be the trouble? I launched into my carefully prepared confused act, complete with furrowed brow and nervous pencil tapping. I just don't understand derivatives at all. Like, why do we need them? And how do you know which formula to use? Alex's eyes lit up the way they always did when he was about to explain a concept. Think of it this way, he began, pulling out a blank piece of paper. Derivatives are like... He stopped, staring at my notebook that was partially visible under my current work. I followed his gaze and felt my heart stop. There, in the corner, I'd absent-mindedly solved a complex differential equation while waiting for class to start. Quickly, I slammed the notebook shut. That's, my sister's. She's in college. I was just copying some of her work to try to understand. Right, Alex said slowly, giving me an odd look. But he continued with his explanation, drawing diagrams and walking me through basic derivative rules, as if he hadn't seen anything suspicious. For the next week, I carefully maintained my mathematically challenged facade. I asked questions in class, made strategic mistakes on homework, and managed to score a perfectly mediocre 75 on our quiz. Alex was unfailingly patient, spending more and more time helping me after class. You're actually picking this up really quickly, he commented one afternoon as we sat in the library. Are you sure you've never done calculus before? Nope. I said brightly, then quickly added, I'm trying really hard, but it's all so confusing. He pushed up his glasses, studying me with an intensity that made me nervous. It's interesting your mistakes are very consistent. Almost like they follow a pattern. My heart started racing. Is that bad? Should I be making different mistakes? The corner of his mouth twitched. Most people's mathematical errors are more random. But yours, it's almost like you're deliberately. Oh, look at the time. I jumped up, gathering my books. I have to go feed my cat. Thanks for all the help. I practically ran from the library, my cheeks burning. Behind me, I could have sworn I heard him chuckle. The next day, things got even more complicated. Our teacher announced a partner project, a comprehensive exploration of calculus applications in real-world scenarios. And because the universe has a sense of humor, she decided to pair us up alphabetically. Chen and Carter, she called out. You two will be working together. I froze. My last name was Carter. I was going to have to work closely with Alex on a major project worth 30% of our grade. A project that would require actual mathematical competence. This should be interesting, Alex murmured as he took the seat next to me, and something in his tone made me wonder if I wasn't the only one with secrets. After class, Sophia couldn't stop laughing. Oh, this is perfect. How are you going to maintain your helpless student act through an entire project? Maybe you should just come clean. No way, I said, though my conviction was wavering. I've committed to this. I'll figure something out. But as I watched Alex helping another student across the courtyard, I had to admit things were getting complicated. I'd wanted his attention, and I'd got it, but now I was trapped in an increasingly complex web of mathematical deception. What I didn't know then was that my carefully constructed equation was about to get a whole new variable, one that would change everything I thought I knew about Alex Chen, and this ridiculous plan of mine. Because sometimes, in mathematics and in love, the most interesting solutions come from unexpected variables. The first day of our project work, Alex suggested we meet at the local coffee shop instead of the library. It'll be more relaxed, he said, with a smile that made me nervous. And we can talk freely without the librarian shushing us. I spent an embarrassing amount of time choosing my outfit, finally settling on a NASA t-shirt that I immediately second-guessed. Would a girl who's bad at math wear a NASA shirt? Before I could change, Sophia appeared at my window. No, she said, climbing in. You are not having a wardrobe crisis over this. But what if the shirt makes him suspicious? Emma, honey, your differential equations probably already did that. She had a point, but I kept the shirt on anyway. At least if my cover was blown, I'd go down looking like myself. Alex was already at the coffee shop when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups of coffee and a familiar-looking book open in front of him. Is that? I stopped mid-sentence, staring at the advanced theoretical mathematics textbook I had the same copy of hidden under my bed. He quickly closed it. Just some light reading. I got you coffee. I noticed you always have vanilla lattes during our tutoring sessions. My heart did a little flip at the fact that he'd noticed my coffee preference, but I was more intrigued by that book. Advanced theoretical mathematics wasn't typical light reading, even for someone good at math. So, he said, pushing up his glasses, shall we start on the project? The assignment was to create a real-world application of calculus and present it to the class. As Alex outlined his ideas, I found myself having to bite my tongue repeatedly to stop from making suggestions that would be far too advanced for my supposed skill level. Maybe we could do something simple, I said carefully, like velocity and acceleration. Simple. Right. Was it my imagination, or was there a hint of amusement in his voice? Actually, I was thinking about something a bit more interesting. What do you know about optimization problems? I opened my mouth to explain exactly what I knew about optimization problems, which was everything, including having published a paper on them, in a junior mathematics journal under a pseudonym, then caught myself. Is that like making things optimal? Alex's lips twitched. Something like that. Here, let me show you. He began explaining optimization in a way that was so clear and elegant that I almost forgot I was supposed to be confused. His examples were clever and engaging, and I found myself genuinely impressed with his teaching ability. And that's why we can use calculus to find the perfect dimensions for a can to minimize the amount of material needed, he finished. That's amazing, I said, my enthusiasm genuine even if my confusion wasn't. How did you get so good at explaining things? Practice, he said, then added with what seemed like careful casualness, though sometimes I think I explain things better than I actually understand them myself. There was something odd about the way he said it, but before I could analyze it further, he changed the subject. You know, it's funny, he said, but your questions during our tutoring sessions are always so specific. Almost like you know exactly what you need to ask to understand the concept. I felt my cheeks heat up. I just try to be thorough, HMM. He pushed up his glasses again, studying me. And your mistakes, they're very sophisticated mistakes. Most students who struggle with calculus make basic arithmetic errors, but yours are always conceptual. Almost like you understand the advanced concepts, but are deliberately misapplying them. My heart was pounding. That's an interesting theory. Yes, it is. He smiled slightly. Almost as interesting as someone who claims to not understand derivatives, but as Taylor series expansions doodled in the margins of their notes. I knocked over my coffee. As we both reached for napkins, our hands brushed, and I felt a spark of electricity that had nothing to do with static and everything to do with the way he was looking at me. I should go, I said quickly, gathering my things. I have to, feed your cat, he suggested innocently. Yes. No. I'll see you tomorrow. I practically ran from the coffee shop, my mind racing. He knew. He had to know. But if he knew, why hadn't he said anything directly? And what was with that comment about explaining things better than he understood them? The next day at school, I tried to avoid Alex, but we had 3 classes together and a project to work on. Plus, I didn't actually want to avoid him, which made it harder. During lunch, I spotted him in the library, helping another student with geometry. There was something different about his teaching style this time, something I hadn't noticed before. He seemed to be checking his notes more often than usual. You're staring, Sophia commented, appearing beside me. There's something weird going on, I said. Watch him when he tutors. We observed as Alex helped the student solve a problem. He explained everything perfectly, but there was a subtle hesitation before each explanation, a quick glance at his carefully organized notes. Maybe he's just being thorough, Sophia suggested. Or maybe. A wild thought began forming in my mind. Maybe he's not as confident about math as everyone thinks. That's ridiculous. He's the best math tutor in school. Being good at teaching math and being good at math aren't necessarily the same thing, I said slowly, remembering his comment about explaining things better than understanding them. That afternoon, we met in the school courtyard to work on our project. I decided to test my theory. So, I said, deliberately making my voice uncertain, I was thinking about optimization problems last night, and I had a question about second derivatives. Oh, second derivatives are used too. He reached for his notes, then stopped when he saw my expression. What? You're reaching for your notes to explain second derivatives? But yesterday you gave me a perfect explanation of optimization, without looking at anything. He froze. Almost like, I continued, heart pounding, you had prepared that specific explanation in advance. Alex was silent for a long moment, then let out a small laugh. You know, for someone who's supposedly bad at math, you're very observant about mathematical explanations. We stared at each other, both aware that we were on the edge of something. Alex, I said carefully, why did you become a math tutor? He adjusted his glasses, not meeting my eyes. Would you believe me if I said it was to get better at math? Actually, I said, thinking about my own ridiculous plan, I would. Your turn, he said, finally looking at me. Why did you suddenly start struggling with calculus when you had perfect scores in every math class before this? I took a deep breath. Would you believe me if I said it was to get your attention? The silence that followed was deafening. Then Alex started laughing, really laughing, and after a moment, I joined in. We must have looked crazy, sitting in the courtyard laughing like maniacs, but I didn't care. So, he said when we finally caught our breath, just to be clear, you're actually good at math. Math Olympics gold medalist, I admitted. I understand enough to teach the basics, but anything beyond that, he shrugged. I started tutoring because I wanted to really understand math, not just memorize it. Teaching others seemed like the best way to learn. That's actually really impressive. He smiled. Not as impressive as pretending to be bad at math just to talk to someone. I buried my face in my hands. Please stop. No, really, the commitment to the role was amazing. The carefully planned mistakes, the confused expressions. Says the guy who apparently prepares detailed notes for every tutoring session. We grinned at each other, all the pretense finally gone. So, he said, pushing up his glasses, in that way that still made my heart flutter, want to start over? Hi, I'm Alex. I'm trying to get better at math, and I think I could learn a lot from you. Hi Alex, I replied, feeling like my smile might split my face. I'm Emma. I'm pretty good at math, but I think you could teach me a thing or two about explaining it to others. And maybe, he added softly, we could figure out some other things together too. Looking at him, really looking at him, no pretenses, no acts, I felt something shift. Maybe Sophia was right. Maybe I should have just asked him out like a normal person. But then again, you know what this means, right? I said. What? Our project is going to be amazing. He laughed. As long as you don't pretend not to understand your own explanations. As long as you don't pretend to understand mine when you don't. And just like that, we had a new equation to solve, one that involved tutoring and learning, teaching and understanding, and maybe, just maybe, something that looked a lot like love. News travels fast in high school, but it travels at light speed when it involves the school's favorite math tutor and the girl who supposedly went from calculus disaster to mathematical prodigy overnight. Did you hear? I overheard one freshman telling another. Apparently she was faking being bad at math the whole time. No way. I heard he was the one pretending that she's actually been tutoring him. The rumors got more elaborate with each retelling. By lunch on Monday, there was a theory circulating that we were both secretly math professors conducting a social experiment. You have to admit, Sophia said, watching yet another group of students whisper and point in our direction, this is kind of hilarious. Alex and I had claimed our new regular spot in the courtyard, surrounded by textbooks and paper cups of coffee. After our mutual confessions, we decided to be open about working together, really working together, no more pretending. I think it's kind of perfect, Alex said, not looking up from the proof I was helping him understand. The whole school thinking we're both secret math geniuses. Well, one of us is, I teased, then quickly added, but you're getting there. Look how you solved this part, that's exactly the kind of intuitive thinking you need for higher level math. He smiled, pushing up his glasses. Thanks to my excellent tutor. Though I still think I'm better at explaining basic calculus than you are. It was true. Watching Alex teach had shown me that being good at math wasn't the same as being good at teaching it. His carefully prepared notes, his thoughtful examples, his patience with confused students, these were skills that had nothing to do with mathematical ability, and everything to do with understanding people. Maybe we should start a tutoring business together, I suggested, half joking. You handle the explanations, I handle the advanced problem solving. The dynamic duo of derivatives. The calculus power couple. We both froze, realizing what I'd just said. Were we a couple? We hadn't actually discussed what we were, despite spending almost every free moment together for the past week. Alex cleared his throat. Speaking of couples, there's this mathematical visualization exhibition at the Science Museum this weekend. Would you maybe want to? Yes. I said too quickly, then tried to play it cool. I mean, that sounds interesting. Mathematically speaking. He grinned. Mathematically speaking, of course. Sophia, who had been pretending not to listen, let out an exaggerated groan. You two are the biggest nerds I've ever met. Who goes to a math exhibition for their first date? It's not a... I started, then looked at Alex. Is it a date? I'd like it to be, he said softly. My heart did calculations that would have impressed even the Math Olympics judges. The exhibition turned out to be perfect. We spent hours exploring interactive displays about fractals, geometric art, and mathematical patterns in nature. Alex was particularly fascinated by the teaching tools, new ways to visualize complex concepts. See, this is why I started tutoring, he explained as we watched a 3D model demonstrate multivariable calculus. Math isn't just about solving problems, it's about understanding patterns, seeing connections. I wanted to learn how to see it the way you do. The way I do, yeah. Even when you were pretending to be bad at math, I could tell you saw the beauty in it. The way your eyes would light up when something clicked, even though you were trying to hide it. It's actually what made me suspicious in the first place. I felt my cheeks warm. Well, I liked watching you teach. The way you break down complex ideas, how you always find the perfect metaphor to explain things. That's its own kind of mathematical talent. He took my hand as we moved to the next exhibit. Maybe that's why this works. We see the same thing from different angles. Like complementary approaches to a proof. Exactly. He squeezed my hand. Though most proofs don't involve fake tutoring sessions and elaborate deceptions. Hey, you were deceiving too. True. But I think my deception was more academically ethical. Oh really? Want to debate that over ice cream? The ice cream shop across from the museum became our second date, where we argued playfully about whose deception was more justified while sharing a massive sundae. It felt easy, natural, like we'd skipped all the awkward early dating stages and jumped straight to comfortable companionship. But our mathematical matchmaking had consequences we hadn't anticipated. The following Monday, our calculus teacher, Ms. Peterson, asked us to stay after class. So, she said, looking between us, with an expression I couldn't quite read, would either of you like to explain what's been going on in my class for the past few weeks? Alex and I exchanged glances. Well, I started, it's kind of a funny story. A very funny story, Ms. Peterson interrupted, about a top math student pretending to need help, and my best peer tutor apparently needing more help than he was letting on. We both stared at our shoes. Here's what I see, she continued, her voice softening. I see two students who could help a lot of others. Emma, your mathematical insight is exceptional, and Alex, your teaching methods are some of the best I've seen from a student tutor. Have you considered combining your talents? We looked up, surprised. What do you mean? Alex asked. The school is starting an advanced math support program for students who are beyond the regular curriculum, but need guidance with university-level material. We need tutors who understand both the advanced concepts and how to teach them effectively. She smiled, interested, and that's how Alex and I ended up co-teaching an advanced mathematics study group 3 afternoons a week. It turned out there were quite a few students who, like Alex, wanted to understand higher-level math, but needed it explained in an accessible way. And there were others who, like me, understood the concepts but wanted to learn how to communicate them better. You know what this means. Alex said one afternoon as we watched our study group work through a particularly challenging problem set. Our ridiculous deceptions actually led to something good. A mathematical meet cute. He laughed, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. That too. But I mean, look at them. He nodded toward our students. They're learning from both of us, your insight and my teaching style. It's like we created a new formula. Speaking of formulas, I said, pulling out a folder, what do you think about this for our project? I showed him my idea, a presentation on the mathematics of teaching mathematics, using our own story as a case study. How different approaches to understanding could combine to create better learning outcomes. The mathematics of pedagogy meets the pedagogy of mathematics. Alex's eyes lit up as he looked through my notes. This is perfect. Though maybe we should leave out the part about mutual deception. Are you kidding? That's the best part. It's like a mathematical rom-com. A rom-com, where both leads are lying about math. Hey, some people lie about their jobs or their pasts. We lied about calculus. It's very on brand for us. He pulled me closer, kissing the top of my head. You know, most people would say we're huge nerds. Good thing we're not most people, and we weren't. We were two people who had found each other through a bizarre combination of mathematical deception and genuine connection. Who had turned our mutual pretense into something real and valuable, not just for us but for others too. As we sat there, watching our study group, and planning our project, I thought about how mathematics is supposed to be about absolute truths, but sometimes the best things come from bending the rules a little. Sometimes you have to pretend not to understand something to truly understand something else entirely. Hey, Alex said softly, breaking into my thoughts. What are you thinking about? I smiled, leaning into him. Just calculating the probability that two people's fake math personas would lead to real math teaching and real feelings. And what did you conclude? That some things can't be calculated. They can only be experienced. He pushed up his glasses, grinning. That might be the least mathematical thing you've ever said. Well, I said, pulling him down for a quick kiss, maybe you're teaching me about more than just pedagogy. College application season hit Roosevelt High like a mathematical storm, bringing with it a flurry of deadlines, essays, and anxiety-filled conversations about the future. Our advanced math study group temporarily transformed into a college application support group, with students sprawled across the classroom comparing school choices and admission statistics. MIT's acceptance rate is 7.3% this year, Alex announced one afternoon, pushing up his glasses as he read from his laptop. Stanford's is 4.7%. You're not helping, I told him, though I'd memorized those numbers weeks ago. My MIT application was already submitted, early decision, my dream school since I was 12. What I hadn't told Alex was that I'd also applied to Stanford's pure mathematics program, where he was applying for their mathematics education program. We hadn't really talked about college choices yet, both avoiding the topic like a particularly difficult proof we weren't ready to tackle. But as December approached, bringing early decision results with it, we couldn't ignore it anymore. Emma, Alex said one evening as we were closing up our study session, can we talk? The serious tone in his voice made my heart skip. About the fact that you check your MIT portal exactly 12 times a day, but you never mention any other schools. I busied myself organizing papers that didn't need organizing. How do you know how often I check my portal? Because I know you, he said softly. Just like I know you're avoiding this conversation. I sighed, finally looking at him. Okay, yes. MIT is my first choice. It has been forever. Their theoretical mathematics program is the best in the country, and it's on the opposite coast from Stanford. There it was. The geometric problem we'd been avoiding, the potential distance between our future points on the map. We could make it work, I said quickly. Lots of people do long-distance relationships. We could video chat and there are breaks, and Emma. He took my hands, stopping my nervous rambling. I applied to MIT too. I stared at him. What? To their mathematics education program? It's actually their new integrated program, Mathematics education with a focus on advanced teaching methods, perfect for someone who wants to understand higher level math while learning how to teach it better. He smiled slightly, someone like me. But Stanford is your dream school. You've been talking about their program since freshman year. Dreams can change, he said simply. Sometimes they get bigger, better. Sometimes they start including other people's dreams too. I felt tears pricking at my eyes. Alex, you can't choose a school because of me. I'm not. MIT's program is exactly what I want to do. The fact that it's where you want to be, that's just a really nice bonus. He squeezed my hands. Besides, I heard they have this amazing peer tutoring program. Even helps tutors who might need some advanced math support themselves. I laughed despite the tears now freely falling. That's a terrible reason to choose a college. Is it worse than pretending to be bad at math to get someone's attention? We agreed never to bring that up again. He pulled me close, and I buried my face in his chest, breathing in the familiar scent of coffee and whiteboard markers. What if neither of us gets in? I whispered. Then we figure it out. Like we always do. He pulled back to look at me. But you're definitely getting in. You're the most brilliant mathematician I know, and you're the most brilliant teacher I know. We stayed late in the classroom that night talking about all the possibilities, both scary and exciting. Alex showed me his MIT application essays, and I helped him refine some of his mathematical explanations. We looked up campus maps, discussed potential study spots, imagined futures where we could continue what we'd started here. The next few weeks were a blur of nervous energy and last-minute application checks. Our study group noticed our distraction. You two are being weird, said Jenny, one of our regular students. Weirder than usual, I mean. We're not weird, I protested. You just spent 5 minutes staring at your phone without blinking, she pointed out. And Alex has pushed up his glasses 27 times in the last hour. I counted. She's right, Sophia chimed in from her usual spot in the corner. You're both totally freaking out about college decisions. We're not freaking out, Alex said, pushing up his glasses for the 28th time. We're just mathematically anxious. Is that even a thing? Jenny asked. It is now, I said, checking my phone again. Still no email from MIT. The day the early decision emails were supposed to arrive, Alex and I skipped our usual courtyard lunch spot and hid in Ms. Peterson's classroom. We decided to check our results together, but neither of us could bring ourselves to open our laptops. This is ridiculous, I said after 10 minutes of staring at our closed computers. We're being ridiculous. Completely ridiculous, Alex agreed. Want to be ridiculous for 5 more minutes? Yes, please. Finally, Ms. Peterson found us still sitting there after school. Okay, this has gone on long enough, she said, closing the door behind her. Open those laptops and check your results. I'm not leaving until you do. Alex reached for my hand. Together, I nodded. Together. We opened our portals, clicked through to our decision letters, and I got in, Alex whispered, then louder, I got in. I was crying too hard to speak, just nodding, and pointing at my screen where the same acceptance message glowed. Ms. Peterson was beaming. I never had any doubt. Though I do have one question, how long were you two planning to keep up your little tutoring charade if you hadn't figured each other out? We looked at each other and burst out laughing. I had a whole semester planned, I admitted. Different types of calculated mistakes, gradually, improving, at a realistic rate. I had detailed notes prepared for every possible calculus topic, Alex added. Color-coded and everything. Ms. Peterson shook her head, but she was smiling. Well, I'm glad you both found a better way. MIT is lucky to have you, both of you. Later that night, after celebrating with our families, who were equally amused and exasperated by our matching acceptances, Alex and I went back to the coffee shop, where we'd first started to figure each other out. You know what this means, he said, sliding my usual vanilla latte across the table. That we're going to freeze together in Boston instead of separately, on opposite coasts. Besides that, he pulled out a small package. It means I can finally give you this. Inside was a beautiful leather-bound notebook with my name embossed on the cover. On the first page, he'd written, "For all your real mathematical thoughts, no more hiding them in the margins." Open to the back, he said softly. On the last page was a perfectly solved differential equation, the same one I'd accidentally solved in my notes the day he first started suspecting I was faking. Under it, he'd written, "Thank you for teaching me that the best equations are the ones we solve together, Alex." I started, but he wasn't done. "Turn it over." On the very last page was a simple problem, Emma plus Alex equals. "I think," he said, pushing up his glasses with that smile I'd fallen for months ago, "this is one equation we'll spend a long time solving." I leaned across the table and kissed him, not caring who saw. "You know what?" I said when we finally pulled apart. "For once, I don't need to know the answer right away." On the last day of our advanced math study group, our students surprised us with a cake. The frosting equation read, "Thank you for teaching us that E plus A equals success. And for teaching us that it's okay to not know everything," Jenny added, cutting the cake. "Even if you have to pretend to not know things you actually do know. Or pretend to know things you don't actually know," another student chimed in, making Alex blush. Looking around the classroom that had become our second home, I felt a wave of nostalgia. The whiteboard still held traces of our last lesson, mathematical symbols mixing with the encouraging messages we always included. The walls were covered with posters our students had made, combining art and equations in ways that would have seemed impossible to me before I met Alex. "Speech," someone called out. "We need a graduation speech." Alex looked at me, pushing up his glasses. "Together." I nodded, and we moved to the front of the room. "When I started this year," Alex began, "I thought being a good teacher meant having all the answers. I was so focused on appearing perfect that I forgot the most important part of learning, being willing to learn yourself. And I continued, thought being good at math meant keeping it to myself. I literally pretended to be bad at it just to talk to this guy." The room erupted in laughter. "But you all taught me that understanding something isn't enough, being able to share that understanding, to help others see the beauty in it, that's what really matters." "Together," Alex said, taking my hand, "we learned that the best kind of teaching, and maybe the best kind of love, comes from being honest about what you know and what you don't know. Even if it takes you a while to get to that honesty," I added, making everyone laugh again. After the party, Alex and I stayed behind to clean up. As we wiped equations off the whiteboard, I found myself tracing over them lightly, not quite ready to erase these last marks of our high school journey. "Remember the first equation you pretended not to understand?" Alex asked, coming up behind me. "The derivative of sin x is tan x," I quoted, cringing at the memory. Not my finest mathematical moment. I knew something was up even then, he admitted. No one who wrote such perfect proofs in their margins could actually think that. "Well, I knew something was up with you too. Your explanations were too perfect, too rehearsed. We were quite a pair, weren't we?" He wrapped his arms around my waist, resting his chin on my shoulder. The math genius pretending to need help, and the tutor pretending not to need it. And now look at us, heading to MIT together, teaching advanced math to students who are actually smarter than both of us combined. They are not. "Alex, Jenny derived a new formula for optimization last week. In her spare time." "Okay, fair point." He turned me around to face him. "But that's kind of the best part, isn't it? We created something bigger than ourselves here. This group, these students, they're going to go on to do amazing things." He was right. Our little study group had become something special. Some of our students had already been accepted to prestigious mathematics programs. Others had started their own tutoring groups for younger students. We created a chain reaction of learning and teaching that would continue long after we graduated. I have something for you, I said, pulling out a small package. A graduation gift. Inside was a custom-made nameplate for his future desk at MIT. It read, Alex Chen, Mathematical Educator Extraordinaire, no pretense required. He laughed, then grew serious. You know, I'm not pretending anymore, about anything. I'm still nervous about the advanced math courses at MIT, but I'm not going to hide it. And I'm not going to hide how much I love explaining mathematical concepts to others, I replied. Even if Sophia says I get too excited about eigenvalues. You do get too excited about eigenvalues, says the guy who made a 30-minute video about the beauty of the fundamental theorem of calculus. Hey, that video got 1,000 views. Mostly from our study group watching it before exams. We grinned at each other, then turned to take one last look at our classroom. The late afternoon sun was streaming through the windows, highlighting the dust motes dancing in the air like variables in an infinite equation. You know, Alex said softly, when Ms. Peterson paired us up for that project, I was terrified you'd figure out that I wasn't as good at math as everyone thought. And I was terrified you'd figure out that I was actually good at math. We were both so busy, trying to hide who we were, we almost missed finding out who we could be together. I turned to face him. Almost. But we figured it out. Like a particularly tricky proof. With an unexpectedly perfect solution. He pulled me close, and we swayed slightly in the empty classroom, surrounded by the ghosts of all our pretenses, and the reality of what they had become. Emma, he whispered, I think I finally solved that equation I wrote in your notebook. Emma plus Alex equals, yeah. He pulled back to look at me, his eyes bright behind his glasses. The answer is infinity. That's mathematically impossible, I pointed out. In a traditional algebraic sense, you can't. He silenced me with a kiss. Some answers, he said when we finally broke apart, transcend traditional mathematics. As we left the classroom for the last time, I looked back at the whiteboard where we'd written our final message to our students. Mathematics is about finding patterns in chaos, solutions in complexity, and sometimes, love in the most unexpected equations. We'd started with a fake tutoring arrangement and ended up with something real, not just between us, but in the impact we'd had on others, in the community we'd built, in the lessons we'd learned about teaching and learning, and being honest about both. Our high school story was ending, but our equation was still unfolding. And as we walked out into the warm spring evening, hands clasped, mid-acceptance letters in our bags and dreams in our hearts, I knew Alex was right. Some answers do transcend traditional mathematics. Sometimes the most complex problems have the simplest solutions. Sometimes the best teachers are the ones still learning. And sometimes, just sometimes, pretending to be bad at math can lead you to the most important lesson of all, that love, like mathematics, is most beautiful when it's honest, most powerful when it's shared, and most perfect when it breaks all the rules you thought you knew.